Usually when we think about the start of a major life change or, I don't know, a massive new project, we picture this perfectly painted starting line.
Right, like you're at a marathon.
Exactly, like a marathon. You lace up your shoes, you toe the line, the gun goes off, and you just run. It's simple, it's visible, and it's entirely forward focused.
Yeah, the direction is completely mapped out for you in that scenario. I mean, you don't have to question the terrain, you just follow the asphalt.
But if you look at how real, profound change actually happens in human consciousness, that painted starting line completely vanishes.
Well, entirely, it's not there. Right, we're looking at a landscape where before you can even take a single step forward, you have to excavate and literally build the ground you're standing on. So in our deep dive today, we are exploring a text that completely flips our understanding of what a starting point actually is for you.
And we're unpacking the ground zero section from chapter 00 of a book called How to Escape the Illusion by Nomade. Yes, and this specific text, it operates on a deeply philosophical level.
Yeah.
So just a heads up, we aren't talking about like productivity hacks or morning routines here.
No, definitely not. It's a really visceral exploration of the architecture of our own illusions and what mechanically happens in our minds the moment we decide to, stop defending those illusions.
Right, so the mission for this deep dive is to really explore that true starting point of every real change. The text argues that before you can chart a new course, you have to establish ground zero.
And the core thesis is that the more honest you are with yourself at the start, the more solid the ground beneath everything that follows.
But that honesty requires a descent into what the author calls the abyss, which sounds, honestly, a bit terrifying.
Well, I mean, culturally, from a very young age, we're taught that the dark is somewhere to avoid. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When darkness carries our past failures or the weight of our mistakes or just the reality of our current situation, our instinct is to move away from it before it can settle.
Because up in the daily orbit of our lives, the noise never really drops below the level required to keep those difficult questions from surfacing.
Exactly. The routine isn't necessarily hostile, it's just full.
It's a very functional distraction.
It is. But down in the abyss, it's different. It's like the quietest place you will ever find. And the text makes this vital distinction here. The abyss does not give us anything.
Wait, it doesn't give you anything?
No. Its entire mechanism, its whole purpose is to remove what was in the way.
Okay, let's talk about what actually gets removed, because the text is incredibly specific about what gets left down there in the dark. First, it mentions the blame that was easier than accountability.
Yeah, that's a heavy one.
It is, and I actually want to push back on this for a second. Let's say I'm swimming in genuinely toxic water, like an abusive workplace, a terrible manager, or a highly manipulative relationship.
Yeah, a genuinely bad situation.
Exactly. If the circumstances actually are terrible, isn't dropping the blame just letting the people responsible off the hook?
I mean, that's the natural fear, right? But dropping blame down there isn't about forgiveness. It's not about letting someone off the hook.
So what is it doing then?
It's about reclaiming your navigational controls. Like, blame is this incredibly efficient psychological shock absorber.
Oh, wow. A shock absorber.
Yeah, because as long as you're focusing on whose fault the toxic water is, you don't actually have to navigate the terrifying discomfort of getting out of the pool.
Right, because your only job is to wait for someone else to fix it.
Exactly. You're just waiting for them to fix it or waiting for the world to punish them. So in the abyss, you drop the blame not because the other person was right, but because carrying that blame is keeping you tethered to a narrative where you are a passive passenger.
You trade the moral high ground for actual leverage over your own life.
That is the exact mechanism. You are trading the comfort of being the victim of your circumstances for the heavy reality of being responsible for your next move.
Wow. Okay, and alongside that blame, the text says the abyss is where we leave the comfortable story, that our circumstances were the absolute cause of our situation. But the line that really hit me hardest was this. We leave behind the weight of patterns we've carried for so long. They stopped feeling like choices and started feeling like a personality.
I mean, just think about the gravity of that realization. We build entire identities around defense mechanisms.
We really do. It makes me think about, like, cleaning out a basement in a house you've lived in for decades. But you're not just throwing out broken furniture.
Right. Oh, it's much more personal than that.
Yeah. Imagine you're down there and you find this heavy lead-lined coat and you've been wearing it every day because, I don't know, 20 years ago you lived through a terrible winter.
Okay, I see where you're going.
But now it's summer. You're sweating, you can barely move, but you tell everyone, I'm just a slow, sweaty person. That's my personality.
That is such a great analogy.
Right. Going into the abyss means taking off that lead coat and realizing it was never you. It was just a pattern you put on to survive a season that ended a long time ago.
And taking that coat off is agonizing, because who are you without it?
Exactly. Who are you?
The text explicitly uses the phrase, we put things down there. It's an active, painful surrender. It's like an accounting process.
How do you mean?
Well, you're looking at these patterns like a manager who micromanages every little detail because they were burned by a mistake early in their career.
Oh, sure. We've all had that boss.
Right, and you were finally looking at that pattern without the story of why it got there. You're just feeling the weight of it. You're asking, what has it cost me per year to keep this?
So that active surrender fundamentally alters our ability to take the next step. You leave that heavy armor in the basement, you drop the blame, you drop the excuses.
Right.
Then what? I mean, you can't live in the abyss. You have to walk back upstairs. And the text describes this return to the surface in a way that is profoundly anticlimactic.
It really is. It totally shatters the cinematic montage we've been conditioned to expect.
Oh, totally. In movies, the moment of revelation is always followed by this dramatic action. Quitting the job in a blaze of glory, throwing the smartphone into the ocean, moving to a cabin in the woods.
Yeah, there's always a killer soundtrack playing in the background.
Right. But the text describes the stark reality of surfacing. We find ourselves standing in the exact same life. We're looking at the same desk, the same inbox, the same person across the dinner table.
Externally, absolutely nothing has changed.
Nothing.
Internally, however, the geometry of the world is completely different.
Because your perception has shifted.
Exactly. The text explains that while the physical environment is identical, our perception of our position inside that environment has shifted.
Okay, break that down for me.
So, the routine used to just be reality. It was all there was. It was the air you breathed. Post-abyss, life looks the same, but it feels like a structure you are inside of, rather than something you simply are.
Oh, I get it. Because you can finally see the edges. You can see the walls of your environment.
And because you can see the walls, you can finally see the gap. You can see the distance between where you currently are and where you've been quietly telling yourself you might go.
This is where the text delivers what I think is a critical pivot for anyone trying to actually change their life. It says, that distance is a measurement, and measurements are essential for navigation.
Notice how that language just completely strips away all the emotion from the gap.
Yes. Let's explore that mechanism, because treating the gap as a measurement instead of a moral failure seems to be the difference between, like, moving and freezing.
Absolutely.
Say you want to write a novel or make a massive career change. If you look at the distance between where you are, like maybe sitting at a spreadsheet job you hate, and where you want to be, and you frame that distance as a moral failure, you just freeze.
You feel shame, and shame demands that we look away. It makes the distance feel like an indictment of your character, like I am here instead of there because I'm lazy or untalented or just broken.
But if it's just a measurement,
if you're 5 miles away from your destination, those 5 miles aren't a character flaw. A ruler doesn't judge you.
that's so true. A GPS doesn't insult you for being miles away from your destination.
Exactly. It just gives you the raw data of the terrain you have to cover. When you drop the blame in the abyss, you are left with cold, hard data. You've stopped explaining your life and you've started measuring it.
Which of course begs the question, if it really is just a measurement, if it's just 5 miles of terrain, why don't we just walk the 5 miles? What stops us from navigating once we see the map?
Yeah, that's the big question.
And the text is very honest about this. Recognizing the measurement doesn't mean the internal struggle just magically vanishes. Establishing ground zero isn't, a one-and-done event.
No, it's fraught with a very familiar, very persistent internal resistance, what the author refers to purely as the voice.
And this is where the vulnerability of the author becomes vital to the text. They insert themselves directly into this process, admitting that they are writing from inside this exact friction.
Right, their feet are not on dry sand. They haven't reached the ocean yet. They are navigating the middle layers and tracing their own loops right alongside the reader, dealing with that exact same voice.
The voice is fascinating to me because it doesn't sound like a cartoon villain. It isn't screaming at you.
No, it's not aggressive at all.
The text notes that even after you've surfaced, even after you've dropped your baggage and seen the walls, the voice still speaks on quiet mornings when the weight returns. It is patient. It's incredibly reasonable.
It's intimately familiar because it uses our own history as its primary weapon.
Oof, yeah.
It brings up the time you tried and failed. It reminds you of the year that cost more than you expected. It constantly offers a familiar, comfortable exit away from the uncomfortable feeling of moving forward.
So its entire function is to keep you safe within the known boundaries of your current life.
Exactly.
It operates so much like an outdated GPS system. I mean, imagine you're driving on a brand new, freshly paved highway, but your car's GPS hasn't been updated in like 5 years. So as you're driving 70 miles an hour down this smooth road, the GPS keeps telling you in this very calm, authoritative tone, make a U-turn at the next available route. You are driving into a field.
All right, make a U-turn.
Yeah, it sounds so certain. It has the voice of authority, but its map is just old. It literally doesn't know about the new road you've built.
That is a perfect mechanical explanation for how the voice works. It's working off old data, trying to protect you from a threat that existed in the past, maybe a failure you experienced 10 years ago, or a risk it assumes is in the future.
Because it doesn't know you've been to the abyss.
Right. It doesn't know you dropped the heavy coat.
So the text points out a small but permanent shift that happens regarding this voice after the descent. The voice still speaks, but the author notes, I no longer mistake it for wisdom.
That's a crucial distinction.
I want to pause here and ask for an ELI 5, explain it like I'm 5. The text says, the descent taught the author to look at the layer instead of mistaking it for the sky. What does looking at the layer versus the sky actually mean in practice?
Okay, think about standing outside on a deeply overcast day. The sky is completely gray.
Right.
If you're a child, you might look up and think, the sky is gray today. You mistake the clouds for the absolute ceiling of the world.
Sure.
But as an adult, you know that the gray is just a layer of weather. The sky itself, the vast open blue reality, is still up there, completely unchanged above the clouds. The clouds are just a localized condition you're experiencing right now.
Oh, wow. So the voice telling me I'm going to fail is just weather.
Yes. When we believe the internal voice is wise, we mistake it for the sky. We think its warnings are ultimate objective reality.
And we assume it knows more than we do.
Exactly, and the relief it offers by telling us to turn around feels so much like safety, so we obey it. But when you realize the voice isn't wise, that it's just frightened, that it's just a layer of old, localized weather acting as a protective mechanism, you stop arguing with it.
You hear the GPS say, make a U-turn, and you just keep driving. You don't pull over, you don't panic, you don't debate the machine. You just accept that the machine is confused.
You endure the warning because you recognize its mechanical nature. You look at the layer of fog, acknowledge that it is foggy, and you keep driving toward your destination.
Which brings us to a really fascinating crossroads. Because if the physical environment remains exactly the same, the desk, the inbox, and the internal voice will always be there whispering in our ear like an old GPS.
Yep, the conditions haven't changed.
Right. Then the ultimate variable left is how we choose to exist within our current reality. And to illustrate this, the text leaves us with a stark philosophical mirror. It presents a taxonomy of 3 fish in a bowl.
This section is a brilliant distillation of human awareness. On the surface, it's a parable. But mechanically, it's really a story about consciousness discovering its own parameters.
Okay, let's walk through this taxonomy because it forces the reader to locate themselves. First, we have fish number 1.
Right.
This fish calls the bowl the world. It never thinks about progress. It follows the exact same current every single day, and it finds the familiar warmth of the water to be entirely enough. It never even feels the limits of the glass.
So mechanically speaking, this fish is entirely adapted to its container.
Blissfully unaware.
Exactly. For fish number 1, there is nothing to escape because from the inside, there's no concept of an outside. It's learned what is realistic, what people like them do, and what people like them never do. The illusion is complete and honestly quite comfortable.
Then we have fish number 2. This one feels something is wrong, but it cannot articulate why. It swims, hits a wall it cannot see, turns, and hits it again.
It feels the boundary.
It does. And every single time it moves toward that uncomfortable feeling of the boundary, the voice arrives right on cue.
Quiet, reasonable, patient, telling the fish, you tried before, there's nothing outside these walls, just swim back to the warm center.
And so, fish number 2 turns back from the edge. The text says it turns back more times than it wants to count. It keeps circling and never dares to ask the question again. What really strikes me here is the profound lack of judgment in the writing.
Oh, for sure. The author is very careful not to condemn fish 2. Fish 2 doesn't stop looking because it's weak or flawed. It stops looking because looking physically and psychologically hurts.
Yeah, it's exhausting to keep hitting the glass.
It is. The voice offers a highly rational reason to stop seeking, and the familiar warmth of the water settles back over everything. It's a tragedy of self-preservation.
But then there is the third fish.
Fish number 3.
This fish has seen the ripple. It noticed a single drop falling from somewhere beyond the glass, and for a split second, it saw the shape of the bowl it has been living inside. It knows the bowl is not the world.
And that single moment of seeing changes the fundamental physics of the fish's reality.
You can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Exactly. It understands something it can no longer unfeel. It knows that seeing the surface of the water is not the same as reaching it, so it stops pretending the surface is the ceiling.
It wants to see what is beyond the edge.
Yes. Initiating that exact descent into the abyss we talked about earlier, it begins to map the glass.
It starts treating the distance to the edge as a measurement.
Precisely. The third fish is doing the work of ground zero.
The text ends this section by turning away from the fish and pointing directly at the reader. It asks a question that carries so much weight, and it doesn't try to soften it or solve it for you.
It really doesn't pull any punches.
It simply asks, what part of your life already feels like a bowl you keep calling home?
It's a question designed to completely disrupt your daily orbit. It requires a level of silence that you could only find in the abyss.
And we want to let that question hang in the air for you. What part of your daily routine, your career, your relationships is just you swimming the same current, calling the glass your world? The text demands that you sit with whatever comes to mind. Because if you answer that question honestly, you are about to look directly at the glass.
And looking at the glass is the absolute prerequisite for ever swimming past it.
So let's trace the philosophical arc of everything we've navigated in this deep dive today. We started by recognizing the terrifying necessity of the descent, entering the honest dark of the abyss not to find a magic map, but to empty our hands.
Right, to leave behind the heavy coats we mistook for our own personalities and the blame that kept us trapped as passengers in our own lives.
We put things down there, and because we emptied our hands, we were able to surface back into the exact same life, the same routines, but with a completely shifted perception.
We stopped defending the illusions of our circumstances and we started mapping the walls.
We took the massive, shameful gap between our current reality and our desired potential, and we stripped the emotion out of it. We turned a moral failure into a simple measurement, allowing real navigation to begin.
And we decoded that persistent internal voice. We realized it isn't some oracle of wisdom, but just an outdated GPS system, a layer of foggy weather trying to keep us within historical boundaries.
We learned to endure its warnings without altering our course.
Yes.
And finally, we confronted the taxonomy of the three fish, challenging ourselves to identify where we are currently swimming and asking what part of our lives has become a bowl we keep calling home.
Because real navigation, the true beginning of any meaningful change, it only starts when we stop complaining about the temperature of the water we swim in and start measuring the raw distance to the edge.
Ground zero is the ultimate act of self-honesty.
It really is.
It is the moment you stop waiting for someone to paint a starting line for you, and you finally build the ground beneath your own feet. So to leave you with a final thought to explore on your own as you step away from this deep dive today, you are about to look directly at the glass of your bowl. You're going to see the limits of your current reality. But consider this. If the walls of that bowl are constructed entirely from your own unexamined history, your old excuses, and your outdated protective habits, what actually happens to the glass the moment you simply stop defending it? Does the bowl violently shatter around you? Or do you just finally realize you've had the power to swim over the edge the entire time?
That is a measurement worth taking.
Until next time, keep navigating.